Whoa, 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 hold up. How did we get here? So, one day my boss comes to me and says, "We're gonna be on Shark Tank. How do you feel about making the set?" Of course I'm down. I love that show. How much time do I have? Well, they want to have a shoot in about a month and a half from now. Gotcha. So I have like a month and a half. Well, they actually needed to arrive ahead of filming, so more like a month. I can make that work. And it needs to be huge and imaginative, for sure. Also, we need crazy cardboard costumes. And let me just ask in case I misheard. You said 1 month, right? Absolutely. Okay, just checking. Thus began my month-long journey of spending all day in my garage, cutting cardboard, welding steel, fighting fevers, all to make the greatest Shark Tank set of all time. I knew I had to make a kick-ass set and I had exactly 1 month to do it. So, what was the game plan? Well, for those who don't know, I work for a company that sells a kid-safe power tool for cutting cardboard, and I wanted everything to be made with our tool and our favorite material to show how powerful they are together. To start, I sketched a few concepts ranging from a luau to a fantasy land and brainstormed with the team. We all liked the idea of a construction site featuring our mascots as the construction workers and decided that the stuff being constructed should be things that kids love, like castles and rocket ships. To match, Kelsey would be a knight and Max would be an astronaut. From there, I worked with our very talented graphic artist Lydia Ko to create a few concept sketches and form a list of all the props and characters that we needed to create for the set. I ranked everything based on their priority, and we got to work. Lydia worked on all the art for the backdrop and the characters, and I was responsible for getting everything made and to LA. This was going to require a whole lot of cardboard, so I saved all of my delivery boxes, collected pallet separators from Costco, and went to a local moving box store to get some really big sheets of cardboard. Now I think it's time to cut to past me to talk about constructing everything. Okay, so here's the situation. In about a month or so, we're gonna be on Shark Tank. So we need to get the whole set together. I need to make a whole bunch of props. I need to make cutouts of our characters. I also need to make costumes for Max and Kelsey, since they're the ones that are actually going to be on the stage giving a pitch to the sharks. Well, I have an idea for like this wrecking ball that will like knock down a whole wall of boxes as they enter. It's a bit ambitious. We'll see if we can get to all of it. Mainly the two that I'm going to be focusing on for now are the castle and the rocket, since those are really important. And that's why I have this big sheet of cardboard. I actually have a whole stack of them, but I want them to have some 3D curve to them. So I went into CAD and kind of figured out what the dimensions of those parts should be. With those dimensions, I marked out all the lines directly on the cardboard sheet. 3/4. So I've got this sort of whippy piece of wood, so I can just clamp it down. See, that makes a nice, gentle, fair curve. I can just trace that. I'm connecting the lines using a string as a straight edge, which is similar to how chalk lines are made on construction sites. So that's one piece all laid out. Just have to do that same process now for the other two pieces. And then I also have to do it for the rocket. This might be a little big. When it came to cutting out these giant sheets, I actually had some trouble with the machine slipping. So this is when it occurred to me that I could just tape the chop saw down. After taping it down, the cutting went way smoother on these larger pieces. There you go. Woo! Oh, no. Next, I needed to give this giant sheet a gentle curve. It's getting a little tough. Eventually I got the hang of it and just bent cardboard over the edge of the table. Okay, so all the parts are pretty much cut out now. So I'm gonna assemble the castle and see how it goes together. For a lot of the construction on the props, I use this double-sided tape because it's quick and strong. In this case, it allowed me to add these circular ribs. I make the middle section and then the top section with the crenellations. Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. As you can see, the castle is done. It's really freaking tall, so I'm gonna have to take it apart here pretty soon, but it's about 8 feet. We go around to the back side. You can see that it's held together. Well, there's these like little sort of half circle ribs to just provide it some rigidity, and then each of these sections is separate, so you can put them together. And I also think I'll add maybe some sort of support here. It does have just a little bit of wobble, but I think that's totally fine. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Later, I finished it up with extra details like bricks and rivets. Okay, so now that the castle's all done, I'm gonna move on to the rocket ship prop. So I went into SolidWorks and used the sheet metal tools in order to create some patterns. So this is for the bottom part, and I have some much bigger ones for the top part. And then there's like a whole middle section that I'll just do by hand. I'll just use my little bow. Again, I'm using the wooden rod, but this time I'm using a string so that way I can make it into an arc. Just wrap this around a few times. No! These are just more of the rib supports, and I need to make quite a few of them for the rocket. Okay, so it's a new day. I'm gonna start assembling the rocket. I've got all the parts, well, most of the parts cut out. I'm gonna start with the bell, which I think I'm going to just tape up the seams and use super glue on the inside and then reinforce it with some packing tape. I think it works nice for when you have these complex 3D geometries. To make it easier to assemble, I use masking tape to hold everything together. From there I can add super glue and tape the backside so it all stays together. Boom. Starting to look like a rocket bell, a little rocket thruster. And now I'm using super glue to reinforce it with a little bit of packing tape to make sure it stays together. Okay, so it's all together now. Yeah, it's pretty sturdy. So I'm gonna make the rest of the parts. I don't think I'm gonna show all of it on camera. Yeah, I've got 12 more days until I've got to get all this stuff to Hollywood. I finished up the castle yesterday. I didn't really film any of that though. I was actually sick and running a fever, but I'm feeling much better today, and I'm gonna do all the finishing touches on the rocket, of which the first finishing touch is the porthole. And next to the fins for the rocket, I just sort of eyeballed the shape. Just like that. So I've cut a hole, or like a little panel out of this. The idea with this panel is that it makes the rocket look like it's under construction, really giving it that construction site feel. The last steps for the rocket were to give the top half the same treatment and to give it some paint. Moving on, this is Mac's astronaut helmet. You can see it requires curving the cardboard pieces, so they're all curvy. Normally I would have made a pattern, but because I was short on time, I just used an EVA foam pattern as a base and then modified it. A lot of the construction techniques are pretty similar to the larger props. Here I'm just showing the reinforcement. This is the hinge mechanism that allows the helmet to open and close. For Max's jetpack, I started with these thrusters and progressively built around them, adding more details as I went along. Kelsey's helmet was actually the first prop I made, but I didn't film it. It's constructed the same way as Max's helmet, and her shield is just a simple sheet with details and trim added to it. What I focused on a little bit yesterday was making a shield for Kelsey. Fits on your arm like that. Now I'm going to move on to making the sword to go with it. So in the center, I'm going to use this wooden dowel to give it some structure. And then I've got some of this cardboard tube that I'm going to use as a handle. I need a way to actually have this slide on to this wooden dowel. So I'm going to make some like little plugs to put in there that I can glue onto. I've cut out both sides, and then I'm putting in some of these just like extra spacers to give the blade a little more thickness. This is it complete, and again, I was short on time, so I couldn't film the whole process. Up next is my favorite prop of the bunch, and that's the giant wrecking ball excavator. I started by welding up the frame, and if you couldn't tell, my welding table is a little small for the job. But even still, it's a big help for this. Here I'm measuring the corner to corner distance to make sure that the frame is actually square before I finish welding it. Okay, this whole side is tack welded. Oh, that's a bad one. Okay, I'm just gonna weld everything up now that everything's tacked in. I'm pretty much done with this frame. I just need to drill out some holes for the casters. And then I spent the morning making this entire piece, which is actually the part that's gonna spin around. It's a bit heavy, so I'm a little concerned about that. It'll just be pretty sturdy. I guess that's better than it being a little too weak. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish up the welding on this. And there goes the mic. The EMI from the welder probably made it cut out there. So all the steel parts are welded up. That's the bottom part, and you can see it's on 4 casters that all can lock. And then this top part here is like the top part that'll rotate, and you can see that there's this rod here, which is what it'll rotate about. That's gonna go through some pillow blocks. And then I also have some static casters that will help support it so it's not able to wobble side to side quite as much. This is the motor setup for the wrecking ball. So I've got this remote, and I can go in both directions. I'll just have to tweak the maximum RPM and things like that once it's hooked up into the system, but yeah, this is pretty much it. I made use of a lot of 3D printed parts for the motion system, and as you can see, I maxed out my printer's bed size for this part. I've got the motion system all set up. I've got it all plugged in. There we go. It's not perfect, but it seems to be working. I've got it kind of set up now, the wrecking ball. You can see it's yeah, it's a little bit bendy, but that's gonna end up being supported. So this is pretty much the complete crane setup. You can see I have the ball, or the wrecking ball, hanging from the top. And I just have that cable going down to the support. And yeah, that all seems to be holding up just fine. Now I just need to make sure that this part can rotate under, under all this extra load. So I'm making the tread pieces. So I've got a good start on these, and I'm gonna cover them up with some of this, which is just cardboard that I've taken the top layer off of, so you can really see that it's got like some cool texture and some flutes. And the idea is I'm gonna be able to like slot them onto the frame. It should make it look like an actual excavator and not just a bunch of welded up steel tubes. So there's a cool technique that I wanted to show you, which was how I separated the top layer from one of these big sheets to make the treads. And it's pretty easy. I mean, all I've got here is one of our folders going in on one side. You can see it separates the top layer. So now you can see how floppy it is. That's tread number 2. Here, and that also just slides on. Then I finished up the rest of the facade pieces and added finishing details. I gave it a couple more tests to make sure that it all worked. It's running at a quarter power here, so I juiced it up a little bit later so it can go faster. With it working, all that was left was to add details, painting it, and adding the pilot. Did I mention that I also got all the character cutouts made? I spent the last of my time making smaller props, and then it was time to go to LA. So I'm about to head over to LA. I'm starting around Sacramento, so it's gonna take probably 6-7 hours to get there. You can see I've got the whole car packed. My wife didn't really think I could get all that stuff in there, but I proved her wrong. Yeah, I'm just gonna get on the road and get driving and see you when I get to LA. So I just got back from the Sony Studios where I was setting up all of the props that we have for Shark Tank. I tried asking if I could film. They said I could, but I can't post it, so it's not super useful for this video. But man, am I glad it's all over. It was a ton of work. I'm a little bit nervous about the wrecking ball since, you know, it's a little complex mechanically compared to everything else, which isn't mechanical at all. So hopefully it works. I put a lot of work into having redundant systems and making sure that the operator knows how to do it properly. With anything like this, there's always a chance for failure, and there's only one take that they do. You know, you get one shot and it either works or it doesn't. That's it for me. I'm gonna get some dinner, get some sleep. Probably tell got some bags. I'm a little tired after these last few weeks. I've been putting in a lot of work, but I think it'll pay off. Finally, the day of shooting came, and you can see the Shark Tank crew setting everything up here. There are a lot of props, so it took quite a while. Everything was going smoothly until disaster struck. Something had gone horribly wrong with the excavator. And that's when I got a call from my boss. Hello?
Okay, thank God you picked up. I am freaking out. We have to shoot in 5 minutes and something is wrong with the excavator. It's not moving and it's making a really weird noise.
Oh shit. Well, I think I know what it might be.
Okay, they're calling me backstage and I have to go prepare. I'm handing my phone to the operator.
Okay, I'll get this fixed. Theatrics aside, it turned out that the belt had fallen off. This was a pretty easy fix, and I had trained the operator on how to reinstall it when I had dropped off the props originally. If I had to do it over again, I probably would have added a lip to the pulley to prevent this from happening at all. Anyway, with that crisis averted, all I could do was cross my fingers and hope that nothing else would go wrong.
Whoa! Oh.
Clearly it all worked out and the hard work paid off. To see the final results and if we made a deal, you'll have to watch the actual episode. Thanks for watching.